Good evening, viewers. Welcome to another episode of the Speakers Gallery. Our guest today is Dr. Bitange Ndemo. Dr. Bitange Ndemo was our former permanent secretary in the Ministry of Communications. He is currently a lecturer at the University of Nairobi in the School of Business. Dr. Bitange Ndemo did start, or rather put in the foundations for starting off the modern industrial revolution in this country, which is basically technology-based. Dr. Bitange, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much.
Dr. Bitange, where are we going right now as a world? The developments in technology is so fast that many of us are finding it hard to even put a pace with it. But I remember you tried to put the foundation for Kenya to become in the cutting edge of technology like the rest of the world. And this is the area where you are an expert in. Where is the world going?
We're in transition at the moment.
Yes.
Around 1700, we had what we called the first industrial revolution.
The first industrial revolution.
Yeah.
Presumably which started in the UK, England those days.
That was UK, US, mostly Western countries, where they were making machines to help human beings improve on productivity or efficiencies, like steam engines and stuff like that.
The knitting, the textile sector.
All those that were
the
made
cotton,
around.
the yarns, yeah.
Yes. Then around 1900, we got into the second industrial revolution. When we started producing vehicles in mass, to cut the cost, and everybody could afford.
Like the Ford
vehicles. Then around 1950s, we started seeing the entry of information communication technologies, which essentially began to improve on efficiencies in a much greater way than we have ever witnessed. Communications became cheaper. People started to communicate, but that did not reach us here until the 1990s, the beginning of internet in our place here. Internet changed so many things. It changed how we communicated, especially sending letters. Today, nobody sends letters.
By post.
By post. It was much faster. It was more efficient. And then came other technologies like M-Pesa, which has changed.
So we've had the first industrial revolution in the 18th century.
Yes.
Then we had in the beginning of the 19th century, 20th century.
Yes.
The second industrial revolution, which was the mass production, basically.
Yes.
Like the cars and everything.
Exactly.
Then the third industrial revolution right now is the one which is technology based.
It is
ICT.
The one that is just ending.
Yes.
It was driven by ICTs.
Yes.
If you recall, a few years ago, if you had a sick patient in Garissa, the only means of sending money to discharge that patient from hospital was through telegram, which was postal corporation.
Yes.
It used to take 4 to 5 days.
Yes.
And by the time the patient is discharged, the hospital has loaded 5 more days.
Additional bill on it.
That additional bill
Yes.
is what we call the cost of inefficiency.
Yes.
Today, if the patient is discharged, it takes you 1 minute to pay the bill via M-Pesa, and the patient leaves.
Yes.
So you can see how much
efficiency has improved.
Greatly improved.
Yes.
Now, we are moving from just using ICT the way we have been using it, to another level where we intensify the use of it to help, especially in the development of what we call value chains. We have had a very inefficient system of food distribution, for example.
Yes.
Now we tested Red Cross, for example, tested the use of blockchain in managing the crisis in northern Kenya.
Yes.
And it worked perfectly cutting the cost by 90%. How did it work? It worked wonders because they developed identity system for everybody, the identity, and they put them on a blockchain. And when somebody says this household does not have food, money is sent via M-Pesa, and that person goes to buy either meat or milk, so they are able to save.
Yes.
The way we have dealt with the crisis, especially drought, is by government loading maize
on trucks,
beans on trucks, and sometimes it doesn't get there.
A lot of
Or
wastage.
when it gets there, is a lot of wastage. We spend
Pilferage.
20 billion when you can spend 1 billion by sending people a few money, and you see how they have spent.
Yes.
Now that is not even there. The technologies that are driving this can be able to take the money you get in M-Pesa and divide it on how to use it. Because in some places, the husbands take the money and drink it.
Yes.
Now, you can have what we call a programmable currency, and say only 10% can be used on things that are not food.
Yes.
Or 20% can be used for fees and education.
Yes.
This is the direction now we are headed,
Yes.
which started last year, and they would continue to intensify such that we can now begin to have new products or new companies in the days to come.
That's now what you're calling the fourth industrial revolution.
Fourth industrial revolution, yes.
Which is basically pretty much the cutting edge of what we are now.
The cutting edge where we want to be.
Yes.
But only 6 countries in Africa are prepared for this.
Which are?
South Africa, Kenya, Ghana. There are only the other 3 is Botswana.
Algeria, most likely, is it?
No.
Morocco, of course.
No. I have the list. It's just that
only 6 countries in Africa are prepared for that revolution as such.
And although some say they are prepared, there is no enabling environment. If you see South Sudan closed their internet for a month.
Yes.
Ethiopia closed down internet
because
for 2
of
weeks.
the attempted coup.
Zimbabwe closed their internet. Cameroon just shuts down when they want to shut down. So those are the things that put us behind.
We read these things, and I want you to explain to Kenyans, of course, it's blockchain. Try and explain to us what is a blockchain, what is artificial intelligence. Of course, many of the young people know artificial intelligence is basically the way to, that you will explain, of course. And then what they're calling the Internet of Things.
Let me explain those 3 technologies. Blockchain is an attempt to automate trust, meaning that I don't have to ask so many people about you if I want to trust that what you are saying is true. So what happens is it works through several databases. One of the databases which government is working on now is the identity. If you get the identity, and that identity card is linked to the tax.
The central, whatever.
The tax authority. Is linked to the banking sector. You check and see Ndemo has borrowed and repaid. Ndemo pays taxes. Ndemo has no criminal record. Ndemo, all these
all the information that you need for purposes of public.
You can conclude and say, I can actually lend this man money because if he is able to do all this, it can work. This is what several companies are using now.
Creditworthiness and the rest.
Including banks. They call it credit score. Previously, they used to ask you for your title deed. Then they go to the credit reference to get the information.
The bureau.
And if somebody wrote a letter and said this is a criminal, they have no way of
verifying that.
Verifying this. But with blockchain, you are able to ascertain. Take, for example, the last elections that we had. To run for governor, you had to have a degree. You had to have cleared with the Kenya Revenue Authority.
Yes.
You have been cleared by DCI.
Yes.
And what did politicians do?
They bought all
beat
that.
the system,
Yes.
bought the certificates, and
Yes.
went through the system.
Yes.
With blockchain, which works out of data sets,
Yes.
which are digitized,
Yes.
it will be very difficult for someone to say,
And I have a degree.
can I have a degree from University of Nairobi? Because
When indeed he did not have it, but he just probably
Yes,
wants to
that-
acquire that time.
that ledger of University of Nairobi
Yes.
is available to so many people.
Yes.
So if someone added your name,
Yes.
it would be noted that your name was added 3 weeks
Yes.
to the event,
Yes.
and more investigation can be done.
Yes.
Now we are asking them who are your classmates
Yes.
after the fact.
Yes.
We should have asked them before
Yes.
and say, name 5 classmates that
Yes.
you had
Yes.
when you were going through this. That is
Absolutely.
why I say this is an attempt
Yes.
to automate trust,
Yes.
that you trust what someone has done
Yes.
is true. The
Yes.
second one
Yes.
is artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence comes from use of big data, from actually data. Let me give simple examples. Our productivity, especially in agriculture, has been dropping. And the people who know would ask agronomists, I have these 5 acres. I want to grow this. How do I grow it?
Yes.
And then they would go into their books. They say the soil alkalinity has to be this, the acidity this much. You use this fertilizer. You use all these materials, and you would produce this.
Yes.
That is data that is giving you that information.
Yes.
Now, with that data, you are able to predict
Yes.
how much you can harvest.
Yes.
The same is used for meteorological departments,
Yes.
where they can predict when the rains would come.
Yes.
Because people forget, the technology, artificial intelligence, works with another technology called machine learning.
Yes.
You teach the machines
Yes.
and they give it instructions.
Yes.
Let me know when the rains would come.
Yes.
The same way you tell your mobile, tomorrow I'll wake up at 5.
So wake me up at 5
Wake me up at 5.
with an alarm.
So with those instructions, you can even do more instructions
Yes.
where the systems can inform you.
Yes.
That is what we call artificial intelligence.
Does
It is
that
artifi-
is also is artificial intelligence
Yeah.
also when you use what you call the smart farming, in which
exactly
the system is able to determine whether
To
the water is
determine,
less, whether the water is
the
more,
amount of
the
water
nutrients
need.
you have to put in, the kind of manure,
Exactly.
the kind of basically whatever is required by the soil.
Exactly.
And
Now,
yes.
some-
And it self-regulates itself.
it regulates itself.
Yes.
It remembers
Yes.
the water is supposed to be sprinkled at 5.
Yes.
And the system goes and
Sprinkles at
the
5
water.
o'clock.
Yeah, it's nothing like from heaven or something.
Yes.
It is the same concept. You use your
Yes.
mobile.
Yes.
If once it hits 5, go
Yes.
sprinkle,
Yes.
and it sprinkles.
Yes.
Those are the instructions that you have given it. That is called machine learning. The act that happens is actually artificial intelligence because it made the decision to do that kind of work.
Does that also include the robotic, what you call the robotic or
Even
mechatronics in that case?
Exactly. Robotics also use data
Yes.
to
And
know
artificial-
exactly
yes.
where they need to place this.
Yes. Yes.
But some young people who are growing potatoes in Molo
Yes.
decided to leverage that big data. Big data is one of the
Yes.
technologies
Yes.
that will drive the 4th industrial
Yes.
revolution,
Yes.
and followed the rules.
Yes.
This is an area where they used to harvest 4 tons per acre.
Yes.
Now they are harvesting 15 tons per acre.
Wow. That's almost
Yeah.
4 times.
That's almost 4 times.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
that is the cost of ignorance, that we
Yes.
have been working without
Cost of
this
inefficiency.
knowledge. Cost of inefficiency.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then now come finally to the Internet of Things.
Internet of Things works almost the same
Yes.
way that I've told you,
Mm.
but it can work with multiple technologies.
Yeah.
Meaning that I have to put on the lights in my house.
Yes.
So I have to send a message to another machine
Yes.
to activate the lights.
To put on, yes.
To put on the
and when
lights.
to put off and everything,
Yeah,
yes.
meaning that if I forget, I can actually program my mobile.
Yes.
It reaches that time at 5 in the evening and put on the lights. Yeah, so the act of one machine talking to the other is what we, through internet, is the internet.
And then you can do that from your own handheld phone,
from your
mobile phone.
Yes, you can do from anywhere.
Cell phone, yeah.
Yes, like now.
And you could be in the United States of America when you're
you
instructing it back.
In Turkana, we have young people working there using Internet of Things to monitor factories in Germany.
Wow.
Yeah, because the Germans, it would be very expensive to have someone monitoring what's happening.
Yes.
They would have somebody here and say, if this machine behaves like this, then you do this. So they are watching there and doing some work in German while they are here. Yeah.
Now, we are supposed to be one of the few countries in Africa who are prepared or preparing for that industrial revolution.
Yeah.
You laid the foundation for Konza City. What was the concept? What was the idea for the benefit of Kenyans? Did you want to create all these things under one roof?
Yeah.
What did you intend to do in that? And how far have we gone? Is it a false start?
No, it isn't a false start.
Yes.
If you go to Silicon Valley, it is a place where there are universities, where there are startup companies, where there is
the top multinationals also have their own research and what do you call R&D?
Yes.
R&D, what do you call centers?
Yeah. The reason why you create such a space is that when they are having lunch, when we have lunch, you are a research a scientist in company A. I'm a research scientist in company B.
Yes.
And I say, I've been working on this thing, it's not working. I said, no, we tried. And this is how we did
the variation you have to do.
Yeah. So that shared knowledge is what we don't have.
Yes.
We are actually loners in this country. You work alone, you fail alone, you know. Take, for example, Kuguru Foods.
Yes.
The soda company failed.
Yes, I remember. He had a very good brand which was called Mecca Cola.
Softer.
Mecca Cola also, which is for the Muslims. Yeah, but anyway.
Yes. It died.
Yes.
But nobody sat down to ask, actually, why did he die?
Yes.
If there are people drinking the drink.
Yes.
But what happens is that the big stores have what we call cartels, you know.
The Pepsi Colas, the Coca Colas, and all that.
They will come and they tell you, if you don't give us a chance to decide where our competitors will place their product, we will not give you the product.
Yes.
So companies which are monopolistic like that,
they
do that, and then when they decide that you bring your products, they will put them below your feet.
Yes.
Nobody walks in the department store looking for things down there.
Yeah.
And they failed. So government should have actually noted their such tricks.
And created both the legislative regime or the legal regime.
It's a policy.
As well as the policy, government policy to protect that indigenous industry.
But they have never touched it.
They never did it, yes.
If you go at your highest level, which is between here and here, the companies that display are a very powerful companies.
Yes.
And that is the space where you can see.
Yes.
Have you ever looked for Colgate, or it just appears to you when you're
walking? It's there, just like...
Just at the top.
Yes, yes.
So we need, because our companies, 95% are SMEs.
Yes. Small...
We must fight to
medium-sized enterprises that basically are trying to hit the market.
Space, yeah.
Yes.
Look again, the new one that came recently.
Yes.
The French multinational.
Yes.
They say for you to display your things, you pay us 1.4 million. How many
Kenyans can afford that.
Can afford
No,
that.
none.
The government should say,
Yes.
this is Kenya,
Yes.
our people are poor,
Yes.
nobody is paying.
Yes.
If that is the case,
Get out.
there is no license for
Yeah.
you.
Pack up,
Yes,
pack up and
pack
go.
up and go.
Yes.
So these are the things that even
But-
Parliament,
But don't you see, this is where now corruption comes in and the big money comes in,
of course,
where
when-
big politicians are also big businessmen, and they're the ones who have the cash, who
yes.
basically are given the shares by these multinationals, and then who cares about the common man?
If Parliament wants to help us,
Yes.
they can help. But probably someone took them to some holiday, and that thing is,
I know, I have
Yeah.
been there. I've been
Yes.
there and I've seen it.
yeah.
Konza.
Kwanzaa, the idea, it's taken longer than necessary, but now you can go there and see buildings.
Yes.
There are people committed to buildings
Yes.
space. I talked about universities.
Yes.
The Korean Institute for Advanced Science and Technology is going to invest 10 billion to put up a university there. I know there are several companies that have committed to do something on the ground. And once the highway goes through and the government does the railway, because we had requested that part of the SGR can branch, because it's just there, from Konza Railway, so that it takes 20-30 minutes to be there and back. The place will be huge. We are coming to Treasury to ask for 5 billion capitation for the university.
Kenya shillings.
Kenya shillings. It's illegal.
Which
We
essentially
shouldn't
is
be doing
only, what, $50 million?
it is $50 million.
And
So meaning
one university is making $4 billion.
Can fund the entire university system in Kenya. With a population of 8 million, we have 50 million.
Between those two universities, they're able to generate something that's close to about half of our ordinary revenue.
Yes, yes.
Our ordinary national revenue.
Yeah, national revenue.
Yes.
More than half.
Yes.
Yes. So that's why I'm saying there is some things we are not doing, or we have overregulated the systems that we are not even doing anything.
The desire and the interest having national parks,
Yeah, yeah.
or Serengeti, Amboseli, Savo, Mara, within 45 minutes of half an hour's hopping from Nairobi. So every institution, every multinational in the world would love to put up a research center in here.
We have so much.
Because of the cost of labor is also very cheap. The number of people who have educated young Kenyans who can do a lot of that work is massive.
Even if we didn't do the high-tech stuff,
Yes.
and we did food,
Yes.
we will be richer.
By far.
Food.
By
Because
far.
food it is the next revolution that is coming. What
What
you
is
see?
holding us back?
The newspaper yesterday,
Yes.
we're importing food from Uganda and Tanzania.
Yes.
Yeah? We have all the land here, you know. If you look at northern Kenya, that's
Virgin land, virgin land.
the equivalent of the most arable land in Israel, you know, because the rest is rocky.
Yeah.
So when they find anything,
yeah.
we should be way ahead with organic foods, which have a market globally.
All over the world.
All over the world.
It's actually 50% more expensive than the inorganic one.
Yes. Yeah. So we don't have to think that we make a plane or something. It is something that we have done all through.
Why?
Yeah,
Why you've been in the government yourself? Why are we unable to take advantage of such?
Me, I did what I did in a correct way.
I know.
But there are several.
But in your own opinion, without necessarily going too deep into it and mentioning names, but what, in a philosophical manner, tell us what's the problem?
The biggest problem we have is we fight ourselves. We have allowed corruption to dictate our decisions.
Every decision.
Every decision
Yes.
is what is in there for me.
At every time, it is what is in it for me.
Yes.
If
yeah.
there's nothing in it for him or
then,
her,
I don't have to do it.
the nation does not matter.
Yes. So we need to
Hold on
change.
to your thoughts,
Yes.
Dr. Bitange and Ndemo. We'll go for a shut you short on what is holding us back.
Mhm.
You mentioned corruption. You mentioned greed, selfishness, where a Kenyan always looks at what is in it for him or her.
Yeah.
As long as there's nothing in it for him or for her, nobody cares about what's in it for the government, for the country. How do you cure that?
Well, the technology is going to do a lot of work.
Yes.
And some of the recommendations we have made,
Yes.
if we implement them to
Yes.
the letter, that
Yes.
is the problem.
Yes.
You would cut corruption by so much. In greater transparency, greater transparency. How the decisions are made, who made this, who did that. That's what we call the blockchain, where everybody has the transparency.
Yes. Yes.
Why can't we allow the public to see our expenditure so that before the money is paid,
It's an
we are
it's an
satisfied?
open book.
Yes, we are satisfied that true, the dam is going to be built here, and the deposit that has been paid.
There's always some kind of a secrecy shrouding
Yeah.
all these mega projects in the country. There is, up to now, we don't know what is
The
our
exact cost.
Absolutely.
Yes. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We don't know what is the production sharing agreement we have with Talo Oil
Mm-hmm.
on our oil that is coming from Lake Turkana.
Yes.
We don't know where the money is going. For all we care,
Yeah.
that could be in the name of an individual. We're priding ourselves that this is Kenya, this is our own oil, and we're going to be exporting oil from the oil wells in Kenya. But for all we care, that oil might not be coming to the country. Could be like Angola,
Yeah. So
where the
we
bulk
need
of it,
to-
I'm told, is in the
yes.
yes, yes,
In the U.S. and other places.
yes.
I think we need to demand for greater transparency, but our problem is much deeper
Than that.
From parliament to ordinary citizens. Everybody seeing that this is what
The
must be
executive,
done.
the legislature,
Yes,
the
yes.
judiciary.
Yeah.
Judiciary is extremely corrupt. Also, you can take a case to the judiciary, and it takes forever.
Yes. So
You have the High Court giving a judgment, a ruling in a given direction. Court of Appeal varying that one again.
yeah.
Supreme Court varying the one of the Court of Appeal.
But even as the private sector, there are some things which we can do. Like I said here, that there are young people now who are harvesting maximum output
4 times.
4 times.
From 4 tons
Yes.
to 15 tons.
They
That's
may not have the markets here, but there are markets out there where we need to work and develop.
And the
proper-
market, for all we care, the market internally or domestically could be eliminated because there's a cheap importation that also
Yeah.
does not pay the right taxes that is coming from countries outside. So
But
you
the-
have,
but
you
I
have
don't think-
unnecessary competition.
No, I don't think they will compete.
Yes.
If we improved our productivity
Yeah.
by acreage, I don't think you can get stuff from Uganda to compete here because there's transport costs.
Yes.
Look at fish, for example.
Yes.
We are getting fish from China, but we have not exploited the fish resources in the Indian Ocean,
Which is massive.
which is actually Somalia exports more fish
Than us.
than Kenya does.
Most of it's a private initiative.
Yeah, when the historians come to write, the whole issue that people were discussing, like piracy, it was the Somalis who are protecting
Their own resources.
their resources.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
But someone called it
Piracy.
piracy.
Yeah, to make it
because-
easier for them to
yeah,
steal.
because they were stealing
Yes,
the
yes,
fish.
yes.
Nobody says anything in
Yes,
Kenya.
yes.
But this
trawlers.
The trawlers troll and they carry everything.
All of them,
from
yeah,
there.
yeah. And I know
Yeah.
the Somalis because I was there. I was
Yeah.
in Mogadishu some short while ago.
Yeah.
And I saw some of those big-time businessmen who are also involved in the fishing industry. And they have gone to an extent in which now they have created a relationship with all the major fishing countries in the world. The ones who come to fish in their own waters in that, what you call the exclusive economic zone.
Mm-hmm.
And they have chips in there to give them exactly how much is the catch.
Do you know that?
And where they're going to
yeah.
sell in there. So they're following them. And there's certain areas sometimes if you're fishing, you're a tuna or whatever, a trawler that fishes tuna or whatever.
Tuna comes to spawn in our coastal region.
Yes,
Because between January and July.
yes.
And then it travels
Across the Somali,
and it goes all the way. The next people who catch it are, if the Asians don't catch it in our shores,
yes,
it goes all the way to Mauritius to be caught there.
yes.
One bluefin tuna
Mm.
ranges between $3,000 and $5,000.
Only one.
One.
Dedicatsin.
One.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
What has stopped us from exploiting
Those resources.
Yes. Yeah. Even if we we cut it into feeding chicken,
Yes.
whatever, and everything.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. I know. Tell me, if you look at India,
Yes.
they have the Indian Institute of Technology, premier institution.
Mm-hmm.
Every year there's a national examination for the top engineers,
Mm-hmm.
the top technocrats who are going to basically the top brains in India. Out of 7,000, 13,000 applicants, they choose a couple of hundred. Like 700, I'm told 750 of them for that, to be admitted there. And it's in that process that young rural boys and girls are able to compete with the children of the multimillionaires and the billionaires and make it to that institution. The moment somebody makes it into institution, that is the foundation, that is the harvesting ground for Indian technological development in the world. Both for those engineers who are going to go and work in research institutions outside the country, or for India itself, for its weapons industry, for its technological industry to feed the agriculture and the rest of it, for aerospace, for all that. That's why they're sending satellites into the space. Americans have such premier institutions like MIT,
Mm-hmm.
which is very unique in its own right. The British, the French, and the rest of them have got that Eurospace, which the European institutions of technology that essentially they work together on, particularly the French and the British. We don't have an institution, a premier institution of technology in the country. Don't you think it's about time that we funded such an institution, such a unique premier institution,
Mm-hmm.
and give it sufficient money for them also to engage in massive research in technology, in line with the concept that was envisioned and started during Kenyatta's time,
Mm-hmm.
of the creation of institutes of technology in all the four corners of the country.
The thought is overdue, by the way,
Yeah.
and the Minister for Education has been talking about reforms.
Yes.
If there are any reforms that would happen, I have always argued and written about it, we need some top applied sciences universities, which are institutes of science and technology.
Yes.
That's why the Koreans are assisting us by developing one.
Mm-hmm.
The Germans have been pushing to have one, and I was told they were given Kiambu Institute of Technology.
To
I
turn
think
into that
to
premier
turn it into a premier university
of
for
technology,
for
science and technology. Yes.
But sometimes when we get new administrators,
They change.
they decide to bring in other students, and then they mess up the objectives of such a university. I've always argued that the University of Nairobi needs to lead the way into the future.
In specializing.
In specializing. Even if we are so big, we could say we narrow down and be known that we are a university for this. But we haven't done that. So
have you ever thought of even scaling up that, such that we can have such an institution in collusion, in partnership with other members of the East African community like Uganda, Rwanda, Burundi, Tanzania?
It's never worked so well.
Because at the time of independence,
yes, they created East African
we have the
universities.
East African University, we had
Yes.
the Royal Engineering College,
yes.
the Royal College here, which was supposed to specialize in engineering. Dar es Salaam was supposed to specialize in law.
In law, yes.
And Makerere in medicine. Is it
but we are big enough.
we still have that association of all the universities.
We are actually big enough.
Yes.
And I've said every county should have a university. And then we talk to some of the progressive governors to focus in an area to exploit the resources. This is what happens even in the US. If you take the state of New York, for example, New York has several universities in every sub-county.
Yes.
And then they have top technical university, Rochester Institute of Technology.
Yes.
They have several top universities. They have even specialized schools for music.
Yes.
That's what we ought to be doing. Every community college does all the work that is required for a TVET.
Yes.
That's how you build but nobody is looking at such model to change this country in terms of education. Because everybody's thinking you must go through, get an undergraduate degree and stuff. Yeah.
Amazing. Interesting. When you go to the nanotechnology,
It's again the fourth industrial revolution.
Yes.
Yes.
why are we not able to take advantage of that technology? It's cheap, it's available, it's massive, it's revolutionizing the world. Why? What happened? First of all, explain to Kenyans what exactly is the nanotechnology.
Well, the nano is tiny in terms of, it's not like what you can be able to see.
Yes.
It's very, very, very small.
Yes.
For example, the current methods that we are using to check our GI system
Yes.
is either endoscopy
Yes.
or colonoscopy or
Yes.
stuff like that.
Yes, yes.
But they're using nano now. You swallow something and it
It's able to
transmits
transmit all the information, all the data.
all the data.
Yeah, the pictures that you need.
And you do it even much better
Yes.
because you are seeing everything.
And you can do it with a minimally invasive surgery system which
Exactly.
you pinpoints.
Exactly.
And basically you
And it's also used in several applications.
Yes.
I know that's why I was saying that
Yes.
if we pick the University of Nairobi, I
Yes.
think we have enough capacity to begin to show the way what needs to be done in order to commercialize such technologies. But the problem has been that we are not generating enough resource. We are dependent on capitation from government. There is no money for research, and that's where the problem lies.
What they call the three-dimensional printing.
3D.
The 3D. Is there 4D, by the way?
No, 3D is like the way I can see you.
Yes.
Almost.
The three-dimensional.
3-dimensional. What we used to
We
have
have
is
televisions. I think
2D,
they're
even.
coming up with the 4D. I happened to many years back. I happened to have been in South Korea,
Yeah.
where we went to the Samsung place,
Yes.
which essentially was there to show us including technology that has not come out into the market. And I'd gone as part of an exchange program when I was doing an MBA. And it's amazing because the 4D is there. They showed us something which is 4D, and they said this is for the future.
Yes. They do things way ahead.
Way ahead,
And
5 years, 10 years ahead.
And then, like like the telecommunication technologies,
Yes.
4G, 5G.
Yes. The telecommunication technology, we had the 2G,
Yeah.
the 3G, the 4G. Now we're what?
5G.
We're going to the 5G now.
5G is a different animal.
Yes.
You could be interviewing me exactly like this, and
Yeah.
I'm in South Africa.
Uh-huh. And it's
That's
like
how
we're sitting
far-
next to one another.
Like we're sitting next
And
to
we're having the same glass of water here.
Yes.
You're
Now,
serious.
when we talk about the future of education,
Yes.
we are fusing together all these technologies.
Is that the same thing you also call virtual? Virtual education, basically.
That's
Slightly
the
different.
best teachers probably will teach the entire world, not the individual
Yes,
teachers.
yes.
I'm
yes.
going to show you something later on
Yes,
to see the amount of jobs we can create.
yes,
We shouldn't be talking to each other in English.
yes,
The technology is there now.
yes. For us to talk in our
That-
different languages.
Yeah, you talk your language and talk mine, we understand, and whoever listening is understanding.
There's an instant translation in any other language.
I'll show it to you.
Yes.
I'll play it to you.
Yes,
This is what AI will do, artificial intelligence.
amazing,
And
amazing.
since we know,
Yes,
when you speak your language,
Yes.
you speak it with confidence.
yes,
And that confidence can be seen from your face.
yes,
It's not the same thing when you talk in English
yes,
and you are doubting yourself whether
Yes.
the tense is correct
Yes.
and other things are correct.
absolutely.
Or when you are talking to a Mzungu. Now imagine you talk to the Mzungu in your vernacular and there is understanding what you are
Every word of what you
every
said,
word of what you
what
said.
you've said, yes.
Yeah.
Tell me, we're trying to, being an academic yourself and teaching at the
Yeah.
university right now, there's this business that will change the curriculum. Professor
No,
Magoha,
CBC.
CPC.
That is the most important system ever
Yes,
that we would see in this country.
yes. You are in support of it fully.
Yes, because the previous system was discriminatory in the sense that it confined 30% of young people into oblivion.
Yes.
There are classmates you had who didn't perform well,
Yes.
but years later you found them to be very successful entrepreneurs.
Absolutely.
To the extent that
Absolutely.
we
Some
were
of them are-
thinking that
yeah.
you have to be a little foolish
Yes.
in order to succeed in
Yes.
business.
No, the straight A's were working for those who had
Yeah,
B's.
yeah, we're working for those. It is because their speed of understanding
Yes.
was much
Faster.
lower.
Lower in terms of the classwork that we
Yes.
Yes.
But it's not that they would not understand.
Yes.
So if you took time with them, they would understand. That's why a small school called M. Schule has started in this country using artificial intelligence
Yes.
to provide you what is called adaptive learning, where from your eyes I can know that you have understood
Yes.
and I can slow down until you understand. And that is changing the lives.
And that's what CPC will be based on.
CPC would be that you can move with the fast learners, but you need to stay with the slow learners until they understand.
Absolutely.
Now, what used to happen is you say, what I'm taught I understand at 2 or 3,
And relate.
and they are not quite ready for
Yes.
that.
Yes.
So they end up performing poorly.
Yes.
That's the difference. That we are changing a very discriminatory system. We are removing rote learning. Remember, we used to do math, multiplication up to 12, memorized.
By head. Even now, I still can do it.
Memorized.
But what I did in standard 2,
If
I
you
think
are
I
able
remember.
to do, you are lucky.
I'm still able to do that.
No,
still-
us we used to memorize.
Yeah, 1 plus 1, 1 plus 2, and
no,
all the way 12 to
no,
12
what-
times 12.
yeah,
No,
12
sir,
times 12,
1
yeah.
times 1,
Yeah, yeah.
2 times 2, and then you could proceed on. Up to 12 times 12.
Now, when
Which was
you
144, if I still remember. And that was in 1960. Let me try and remember. It was in 1966.
yes, now remember
A good
when you asked
43 years ago.
13 times 9,
Yes.
most of us used to say atukufundishwa hiyo.
117 it was, I think.
Yes.
Although we never used to go beyond 12.
Yeah.
But I can still use in the same old. And exactly what you have said
yeah.
is what I myself, as a leader, had experienced. As a member of parliament in the 7th parliament and subsequently also, I would make a lot of efforts to try and get the top students from schools in my constituency to be admitted to premier institutions, Maseno, St. Mary's Yala, Alliance High School, Nairobi School, Lenana, and the rest of them here. Make an effort, go through the Ministry of Education, and get them to be admitted in there. And you know what? Most of them ended up not doing very well. Because
the speed.
And those who remained behind in the schools in Garissa,
they did better.
They did better. They did exceptionally good.
Yeah.
These ones, when they came in, and they would come in with, out of 700, maybe 400 something, and then they see everybody else has got 500 something, and maybe in some cases close to 600, they get discouraged. Completely discouraged, because they never had the opportunity. You see what I mean? It's usually equal merit, equal opportunity. And a few of them got discouraged. Instead of making all the efforts, they got discouraged. So throughout the 4 years was 4 years of torture, where they were there at the tail of the class. And ended up getting a mean grade of C, or C plus, and that kind of stuff. While the ones who were left behind,
they got to be
were measurable to their own level, were either in B plus or in some cases even A minus. So don't take a child to a class where they can be a fast learning, and that child needs to have more attention because he did not have the foundation.
Exactly.
Of course, there are those ones who did very well, ended up with a very small, came from Northeastern province with very low grades, got into a school like Alliance High School, and topped literally. I mean, I had that in the medical training colleges when we started through this affirmative action motion, and we created quotas in that. And literally everybody, you see, now they were adults, they were post-secondary school. So they were able to discipline themselves and sit back and do a lot of reading in the evenings until they catch up with that. And eventually they ended up topping most of the classes.
It is said that education is like a garden of roses. There are some that
will flourish.
Yeah, quickly.
Will come out.
Others will come very late.
Yeah.
You need to be patient.
Yeah, well, a 14-year-old kid, when you shock him in Alliance High School and he basically he finds himself not being able to measure up to his classmates who came from all this privileged background. The tendency, there are two ways. Either he works very hard, or he gets into a state of shock. And as you put it through the CPC right now, the slow learners will be given their own pace.
Yep.
But they will
get it.
They nonetheless learn.
Yes. And they would pass the same exam.
Absolutely.
But
of course,
I don't know
as adults, when they are 18 years old, 17 years old, 19 years old, and basically going to institutions of higher learning at the university or in medical training college or God knows where, they are able to pick up these things from their colleagues and work harder night after night until they end up topping the classes. So those are the kind of...
if we can persuade the teachers, they will need more than 2 or 3 teachers in a class.
Yes.
Because always there are slow learners.
Yes. And those who feel shy to ask a question, even when they don't understand it, slowly, because they look at their own peers, their own colleagues there, and have you understood? They say yes. Fears saying no, because then he would be seen as I understand. I agree with you.
You're going to see many more young girls going through to university.
Yes.
Because research shows that when they begin to mature, sometimes they are completely traumatized and feel inferior to the ones until they have understood the whole process.
They get over.
Yes.
They get over these things.
So you would see so many of them actually going through.
That's why I think with a little bit of tweaking, for lack of a better word, if we, instead of having these premier national schools, Alliance High School, Maseno, Mangu, and the rest of them, we could have an Alliance High School in every county.
Yes.
We could have a Maseno or a Mangu in every county in the country.
We can do a lot in the county.
And that way you are able to, of course, have a 10, 15%, 20% coming from the rest of the country. But then you could have that. That way you don't allow people to fall through the cracks.
But that is if the governors allow. They have turned out to be, even good ideas, they say that we want to do it ourselves.
Self-preservation. They're looking at self-preservation. They want to come back. And if they are tribal warlords, then that way they think the community will vote them again or support them, which is a mistake. Because there's no way a Somali will come and dethrone Ongwae or
Nyagarama.
Yes. No way. So if you don't pretend to be a Kissi nationalist or a Somali nationalist or a Luya nationalist or a Luo nationalist, because at the end of the day, it's only a Luo or a Luya who's going to take over from you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
When you pretend that you're protecting the Kissis, you're actually fighting the wrong. You're fighting the wrong person. Wrong battle, because nobody from outside Kissi is going to come and get rid of you. You know, these are the kind of things politicians never understand. I always tell them, all the other Kenyans are your brothers and sisters. You really want to worry about who's going to give you problems? Don't look further than your own homestead.
Because they are the ones who
they're the ones who take over from me as the MP for the constituency, as the governor, as the senator, and everybody. So you don't have to pretend to be a warlord and then fight other communities. Now, finally, I want you to look straight in the camera here and give you a piece of advice to Kenyans on how we can change things. We have all the ideas. We are unable to change things in the country. We are unable to take our country to the next level of development.
But what, in my own view, is that we have blamed everybody in this country except us. If each one of us started to do what they can to change the country, then collectively we will change the country. We stop saying, Mheshimiwa did this, Mheshimiwa did not do this to me, and begin to say, I will do what I can to succeed. We would all succeed.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Dr. Bitange Ndemo.
Yeah.
I've always been fascinated with your brains and your ideas and your vision.
That's a very powerful concept.
Yes.
You find people at home, like in the village.
Yes.
Wamedungwa na some small thing.
Yes.
And they say, oh, my cousin has not sent me money to go to hospital.
Yes.
And then the wound becomes septic.
Yes.
But if they say tuwacha niende hospitali, alafu nimpigie
akutumie kitu.
It's a difference. We need personal initiative.
We need people to take
responsibility. Yes,
people to stand up to the task.
Yes.
And we need to change this country. This country is not going to wait for anybody else to come from outside.